Welcome, dear listener. Tonight we will travel to Victorian England. Fasten your corsets, not your seatbelts. We'll begin at the Hearth, where teacups cool and antimacassars do valiant work, wander out to streets of cab whistles and timetables, slip into salons where manners and marvels share a seat, and end with night's gentle engineering. Lamps lowered, beds warmed, worries folded small. If this cosy story helps you drift off, please subscribe, tap like, and leave a gentle comment. Your support keeps the journey continues. Bring your curiosity in a soft blanket. Let the cobblestones grow distant, the umbrella stand take your weather, and the clock, steady, kind, keep watch while you rest. The hallway is narrow on purpose to keep warmth from wandering. Your coat learns the house's weather first. The floorboards speak a quiet language, one syllable from the stair, two from the threshold, and the door sets down the night like a heavy book on a table. A faint ribbon of coal smoke lifts from the parlour grate, not sharp, more like toast that thought about becoming a cloud. A cane and a cotton umbrella lean together in the stand like an old couple agreeing to rest. On the mantel, a tidy brass clock practices patience. It does not hurry, it does not scold, it simply keeps. You're here at home, in the Victorian sense of that hushed word, not an address so much as a stage. Rooms have parts to play, fabrics have opinions, even the teacup understands timing. Outside, the century invents speed. Inside, the house edits that very gently, with curtains. Take off your gloves, leave a card if you mean to be formal, or only a smile if you don't. We'll start where every story begins, just inside the door, where the air carries a hint of soap, coal and bread. The front hall conducts introductions without speech. On a little table, mahogany with a doily that has more confidence than some people, sits a card tray. Calling cards stand there like a patient deck, names engraved in soft loops, the punctuation of a neighbourhood. A hat stand waits with prongs like antlers. A boot scraper squats loyally near the threshold, carrying the memory of streets and weather. The parlour opens like a polite yawn. There is a coal grate, a fender, and brass tongs that look ceremonial even when they are not. Over the chairbacks, crisp lace antimacassars pose as little snowfields, guarding upholstery from hair oil, and the occasional enthusiastic moustache. A heavy velvet drape draws itself in at the window, keeping drafts out and secrets in. On a sideboard there are photograph albums with leather spines and gilt edges. Next to them, a little aspidistra stands in its pot like a green sensible crown. Conversation begins with a kettle soon enough, but first the room must show its character. The piano is closed, a music sheet tucked beneath a candlestick. The rug holds the memory of boots. A basket of mending sits nearby, sturdy with a purpose. Darning wool, a mushroom-shaped tool of wood, a pair of scissors whose points are thoughtful rather than sharp. The room believes in quiet projects. It believes in afternoons. If you listen, you can hear the clock negotiate with the day. A small click, a poised tick, a tiny step forward. You may miss push notifications, but not here. Here, time arrives in neat footsteps, a light smile. You could place a modern lint roller on the chair, and it would look like a visitor from a very efficient planet. The antimacassar would raise an eyebrow, if lace could. Down the passage with its runner carpet, the kitchen greets you with the industry of iron. The range is a presence, heavy and dark, trimmed in silvered knobs that remember every hand that polished them. It is stove, heater and hearth combined. It swallows coal with a soft appetite and sends out a careful heat you can approach like a cat. One step nearer, hands out, then just a little more. A kettle perches where it can murmur secrets. The poker leans with perfect posture. A trivet holds a pot. Red breathes under a towel on the table as if it too is thinking about the weather. Jars line the shelf, flour, sugar, currants, and a treacle tin waits like a small, reliable night sky. Cooking here is choreography. Dampers are just like vowels. You learn the temper of the oven the way you learn a friend's. A roast takes its time, potatoes crack their skins cheerfully, onions mellow into something patient. The clockwork of mealtimes is as important as the recipes themselves. Breakfast as promise, dinner as reward, tea as treaty with the afternoon. In modern houses, warmth arrives invisibly, piped and silent. Here you court it, You sweep ashes into a scuttle, you black the iron until it reveals its shy shine. You keep a bucket ready because hot water is a favour, not a right. It is not inconvenient so much as intimate. You and heat collaborating. A gentle joke, no sharp edges. If central heating is a polite email, the Victorian range is a handwritten letter with a little smudge where the writer paused to think. Listen, Monday has a sound. It is the stout copper boiler settling into a simmer, and the creak of the mangle turning like a sleepy windmill. It is steam that smells faintly of soap flakes and fresh beginnings. Sheets and shirts line up like white flags of truce, surrendering quietly to cleanliness. Laundry is a performance that recruits the whole room. The galvanised tub flexes its tin shoulders, pegs peep from a little bag, a bluing bag, indigo magic, kisses the rinse water into a clear bright mood. A wooden washboard plays its small music, and ringers persuade water to go elsewhere. On fair days, lines lift toward the sky like staff lines on a page. The garments become notes, composed by wind. It is work, yes, but rhythmic work, with breaks for laughter and the comfortable authority of experience. Stains have names and strategies. Mud is addressed like a neighbour you know well. Soap is carved from a bar with a parings knife, thrift tucked into every angle. The youngest may fetch kindling or carry clothespins, solemn with usefulness. You picture a modern washing machine with its serene porthole gaze. Here, there is no glass to gaze through. There is steam, and the day behaves like weather. And the result is the same miracle, a bed that smells like wind, a shirt that stands up straighter because someone cared. The mantel clock, back in the parlour, hears none of this, or if it does, it pretends not to. Clocks are grand that way. Water is not a tap you speak to. It's a task you invite in. The scullery keeps a pitcher and basin ready, white porcelain with hairline stories in their glaze. A tin hip bath slides from its hiding place like the punchline to a practical joke, except everyone is serious about being comfortable. A kettle is encouraged to pour its warmth into the bath and another kettle follows. This is a procession, not a torrent. Mornings may be a brisk splash at the washstand, ewer, soap and towel that crackles with a sun-dried memory. Evenings, when time is more indulgent, the hip bath earns sighs from sore feet and grateful backs. The water carries away the arithmetic of the day, coal dust, street dust, the faint petal dust of flour, leaving skin that believes in pillows. Some homes, in later years, welcome indoor plumbing like a new relative who tells good stories. Others continue with what works: water cans, ladles, hearth, water poured with ceremony. Privacy is negotiated with screens and respect. Smells are managed with soap scented like lavender patience. We tend to imagine old-time bathing as eccentric endurance. In many homes, it is simply scheduled kindness. Not a spa day, perhaps, but a small treaty with comfort. Towels warm themselves near the range without bragging. The bath is not grand, but it is grateful. Upstairs, the temperature has opinions. Bedrooms learn to be snug by layers. Shutters that shrug against drafts, thick curtains drawing themselves sensible, rugs warming their little islands of floor. The bed is the mountain in this room, and it is dressed like a landscape, mattress of straw or feathers, sometimes both, sometimes a solemn compromise, laid with a feather bolster, a counterpane heavy and proud, and in winter, an extra blanket with ambitions. A warming pan, bright brass on a long handle, travels between sheets like a small wandering moon. Later in the century, the stone hot water bottle arrives, a plump, reliable planet in a knit jacket. Nightshirts are generous and democratic. Nightcaps do not apologise for looking cheerful. The bed here learns your outline. It knows where your knees have opinions, where your shoulder prefers diplomacy. You read by candle or by gas mantle, depending on the house and the year. You prop yourself against bolsters that believe in spines. A bedside table patiently hosts a novel, a spectacle case, and a glass of water that has been told sternly not to spill. If a storm happens, it does so at a distance. The roof hums, the latch replies. You're inside and the bed becomes a small private geography of warmth. We tease the present gently. Today's duvets are cloud-like and efficient. The Victorian bed is cloud stitched by hand and weighed down with generosity. If duvet covers are a speedy handshake, the counterpane is a hug that's already sat down. Open the wardrobe and history steps forward in fabric. For women, different years mean different architecture. a season of crinolines like small round stages. Later the bustle, a gently amused punctuation. Always the corset, which the kindest voices remind us is both support and script. For men, waistcoats bloom in respectable patterns, collars starch themselves thoughtful, trousers memorise a crease like a good line. A corset busk lies on the dressing table beside ribbon and pins, a shoehorn waits like a butler. Hat pins are practical stars. The brush and comb set is ivory-toned and authoritative. Perfume, if any, is a whisper. Violet cologne, maybe a citrus that remembers a summer market. Getting dressed is cooperation. Someone laces, someone buttons, someone steadies the mirror's verdict. Children learn that shoes deserve a little speech about mud before they meet the rug. Aprons live on hooks, cheerful shields for industrious hours. Gloves have a small drawer where they nap between outings, sorted by whether they will meet a market, a park, or a piano. We smile without meanness at the seriousness of clothing. Fashion here is not whimsy, it is grammar. You speak in sleeves, you conjugate by hemline, and you can always undo the sentence when you get home. Where the rug spreads a soft map, so toys mark territories. A hoop leans against the wall like a spare orbit. Tin soldiers parade along the baseboard, their paint chipping in honourable places. A doll sleeps with one eye politely open. On the windowsill, a bird cage keeps a canary, the household son with feathers, while a string, a top, and a pack of cards consider their next adventure. Play is often domestic, close to the warmth, supervised by the benevolent oversight of adults who are doing several things at once. Stories are read aloud, pictures are traced on fogged glass, riddles multiply. On dry days, children carry the hoop to the street and tread new paths against the curb. On wet days, the kitchen table becomes a fort whose password is crumbs. Bedtimes are negotiated with the same tenderness as bathwater. A lamp is left just so. The nursery fireguard grins like a friendly fence. A picture book from the circulating library begins a loyalty that will last a lifetime. The clock says what it always says. Steady now, steady. A light smile. Screens are absent, it's true, but attention spans survive on a powerful dart of imagination and biscuits. Many adults today would pay good money for such focus, and indeed, some do, under the name of retreat. The table does not insist on grandeur, it insists on rhythm. The teapot is stout and confidant. The cups and saucers are thin-skinned and brave. A sugar bowl with tongs waits like a tiny on-stage duet. There might be bread and butter, a seed cake, scones, or a plate of ginger biscuits that make the air wonder if it's December. Tea appears everywhere in the Victorian day. Breakfast, elevenses by mood if not by name, afternoon as a rescue boat, evening as a gentle punctuation. The act is the point, warming the pot, pouring without hurry, adding milk last or first according to one school of philosophy. Conversation becomes reasonable in the company of steam. Small meals keep close to honesty, kippers on Sunday mornings, porridge most sensibly, cold meat sliced from earlier generosity, pickles that have been patient in their jars. The pantry holds jams thick enough to be their own opinion. Cheese rests under its cloth like a secret that plans to be public. We measure the difference from today gently. No delivery bell, no order that updates its own location. Instead, a servant's careful steps in some homes, or your own confident trod, plus the very satisfying vocabulary of cupboards. Dinner plans do not ping, they simmer. In the window's best light, ferns preen on stands and consoles. The aspidistra raises its elegant spears, unfazed by soot, loyal to anyone with a watering can and attention. Parlour palms conduct small breezes. Windows wear lace curtains that make every afternoon feel slightly ceremonial. These plants are more than decoration. They are a domestic thesis, that nature can flourish alongside upholstery, that care and discipline lead to green. Guests notice. Compliments are accepted with modesty that has rehearsed. Somewhere a watering can has a favourite shelf, somewhere a mist awaits like a tiny rain. The indoor jungle smiles at the modern impulse to measure sunlight in apps. Here, the measurement is kinship. Leaves tilt toward you when you enter because the floor creaks in the kindest key. Life has its solemn intervals, and the house knows how to hold them. Black crepe might touch a hat or a sleeve. A ribbon finds its way to the bell pull. A locket carries a curl of hair, love made wearable, a private poem you can clasp. Curtains drift to a deeper shade, conversations to a slower pace. Etiquette provides a path for feet that don't know where to go yet. We pass quickly over details and stay with comfort. Neighbours arrive with baked loaves, jam tarts and thyme. Letters come, folded with care, their ink buoyant and brave. The parlour receives these moments and becomes a chapel without changing its furniture. The clock continues to keep its faithful beat, neither louder nor silent. A steady hand on a moving river. This too is part of home. The ability of a room to bear witness without judgment, to carry a hush that isn't empty but full of companions. Toward late afternoon, the post arrives with the pomp of a small parade. Envelopes slip through the letter slot like white fish. Newspapers unfurl, the broadsheet rattles slightly, so proud of its breadth. In a corner, the writing desk opens its wings to reveal ink, blotter, sealing wax, and stamps that represent adventures yet to be attempted. Letters are life condensed, and even bills have their tidy dignity. A note to a friend begins with weather and ends with affection, and the middle is full of errands and hope. Lists are made, pencils speak softly on paper. String and brown parcels remind you that errands have arcs and closings. It is impossible to be lonely in the company of stationery. Here, the difference from today is texture. No typing faintly into a search bar. Instead, a nib testing its courage. No updates by the second, the news travels on feet you can hear in the hall. Yet the feeling is familiar. The world arriving to your chair, manageable, folded, kind. As daylight goes backstage, the house cues the lamps. A gas tap turns with a delicate sound. A match brightens the globe. The glass chimney clears its throat and glows. Shadows move back, polite as ushers. In some rooms, candles take a bow and commit to their slow golden choreography. In others, a single early electric switch makes a brief triumphant click. Evening is the hour of small triumphs. A knitting basket breathes, producing wool like a magic trick. A needle slides through cloth with the softest thunder. Someone reads aloud from a serial novel. Someone else pretends not to cry at the sentimental bits. The cat discovers the lap that was meant for the mending. Tea cools at the correct speed. If you step into the hall, you can hear the neighbourhood playing the same piece. Stair creaks, door latches, the occasional giggle that refuses to be kept indoors. Night visits by degrees. The house meets it with hospitality. We offer a smile. Modern dimmers promise 37 moods. The Victorian gas tap provides exactly 2, on and off, and somehow finds 100 shades in between. Bed pulls at you like the tide. There are rituals, gentle and sure. The ashpan is cleared so the morning will be clean. The water jug is filled so the midnight will be kind. Boots are set side by side like a couple that forgave each other hours ago. Curtains are drawn, shutters closed, a door snake nudged against the draught. Upstairs, a candle escorts you, bobbing slightly as stairs approve with their old honest voices. Clothes find their hooks. Tomorrow's collar is consulted and given a nod. The basin hosts a last cool splash. The warming pan visits the sheets like a visiting comet. Hot water bottle takes its station, valiantly. In the nursery, a music box winds down. In the guest room, a bedside Bible waits next to a novel that refuses to be scandalous. In the kitchen, the kettle sleeps with one eye open. The house has a map for night, and you are in the centre of it. A few household customs seem to modernise delightfully particular. The calling card ritual, leaving a small square of authority on a silver plate, resembles calendar management with cardstock. The anti-macassar campaigns endlessly against hair oil, the unsung hero of nap-ready chairs. The warmed bed feels like a fairy tale that hired brasswork to play the part of dragon and treasure both. And the aspidistra, triumphant in a pot, is the household equivalent of a diploma on the wall, except greener and unbothered by dust. We do not tease with cruelty, we only admire the ingenuity that comfort inspires. Every object implies a problem quietly solved. Every habit suggests a community of people who agreed that life should feel a little softer than it did yesterday. Back in the parlour, the embers arrange themselves into a small constellation. You could name them if you wanted to, after calm things, after spoons, after rain, after a friend you trust with the key. The mantel clock ticks in its contented grammar. A verb, a noun, a verb, a noun. The room exhales its evening. You are not in a museum, you are in a house that knows what to do with a night. Pillows remember your shoulders. The kettle is 5 minutes away from being helpful. The antimacassar forgives everyone, even the umbrella approves of rest. Outside, the street tidies itself, cartwheels gone, footsteps fewer, a last newspaper folded under an arm. Inside, you lower the lamp, then the curtain of your eyes. The clock keeps, the coal gives a soft star sound, and the house tucks you in. Open the door and the city exhales. Cobblestones glisten with last night's damp like a tray of polished stones. A milk cart nudges along, bottles chiming under their wire carriers. Far down the row, a lamplighter finishes his quiet arithmetic of flame, closing the gas taps with a practiced twist. A timetable peeks from a gentleman's coat pocket like a new compass. You taste coal in the air the way you taste a story at the interesting part. The day widens quickly outside. Horses yawn in leather. The street's grammar is hoofbeat, wheel, and a boot. Somewhere a newspaper boy rehearses headlines in a bold whisper. And you, buttoned into purpose, shawled into sense, step out as if the pavement had been ironed just for you. At home, the mantel clock keeps its old promise. Out here, time has taken up jogging. Markets arrive by sound before they arrive by sight. A costermonger's barrow rattles its wooden thesis on iron rims. Scales swing, serious as judges, while cabbage leaves fan themselves green in the baskets. A woman sings the price of herrings as if announcing a festival, and perhaps she is. Breakfast is a festival when the air is cold and your hands are busy. The stalls make neighbourhoods of flavour, apples stacked in thoughtful pyramids, eggs nested in straw, cheese wearing its muslin like a shy bonnet. You pass a flower seller with a posy of violets in a paper cone. For a penny you can buy a pocket of spring. On a crate rolls rest beneath a cloth that knows the secret of staying warm. A knife grinder's wheel sings sparks into the morning. Small crowds gather anywhere something glints. Money changes hands with the golf club geometry of habit. Coin from purse to palm to purse again. The arithmetic of trust. Haggling is conversation with practical verbs. 2p, 3, and thick. Everyone is a minor poet when describing produce. The sweetest oranges are always elsewhere, but arrive miraculously here. You carry your accomplishments in a basket with a sensible handle, and tea feels closer already. A light smile, the market offers plenty of organic, sustainable farm-to-table, though not a single chalkboard says so. The chalk is busy with arithmetic. Distance in the city is a polite question. Will you walk? The pavements are a social novel, shop windows for eyes, umbrellas like punctuation marks, door knockers with opinions. Or will you hail an omnibus? A tall wooden room on wheels where strangers share a roof for sixpence and a view for free. The conductor rings a bell, horses lower their heads into determination, and you are off into the sentence of the day. The hansom cab is a faster comma, slicing through traffic with a little theatre of wheels. The driver perches like punctuation above your conversation. When you lean forward to speak through the trap, your words go upward, as if asking permission from clouds. A gentle joke. There is no app to summon him, only the worldly magic of a whistle, a wave, and luck's good timing. On wet days, the city performs an opera in grey. Coat collars raised, shawls buttoned close, boots testing puddles for philosophical depth. On bright days, the streets glitter with visitors, parasol tips twinkling, hat bands declaring club loyalties, a penny toy buzzing like a diligent bee under a child's hand. At corners, policemen act as commas, negotiators of flow. Time behaves differently once you are in motion. On an omnibus, you feel it like quilted cloth, stitched by stops, warmed by company. In a cab, time is an arrow with good manners, pointing you toward the station and remembering to tip. The station is a cathedral of luggage. Iron girders lift the roof like an umbrella held by a very tall friend. Porters in caps move with the gravity of moons, collecting portmanteau, hat boxes, and that reassuringly stout carpet bag tied with rope. A clock vast as an idea presides at one end, confirming that everyone is late only in identical ways. Tickets rustle in gloved hands. Timetables compile the future into columns. On the platform, a tea stall mutters comfort. Newspapers flap like gulls. A whistle pips the note that turns expectancy into motion. Then the train glides in, a polished dragon, all brass and breath. Inside, the carriage smells of leather and possibility. Cushions accept you like a club you didn't realise you belonged to. Through the window, the city makes its graceful exit. Chimneys bow, washing on lines applauds, and then fields arrive, composed of hedgerows and tidy, thoughtful cows. You can rest your head against the window frame and count stiles the way sailors count waves. Railway time is a new species in the century's menagerie. It makes lunch possible 2 towns away and supper back home before the embers forget your name. Villages grow bolder. Newspapers arrive everywhere at once. Love letters need faster shoes. The train redraws distance until it behaves. We nod to modern speed without scolding it. Today, real-time maps instruct your attention. Here, Bradshaw's guide instructs your patience. A missed connection means another cup of tea, and the platform has opinions about which biscuits go best with waiting. The city earns its bread with many hands. In offices fragrant with ink, clerks dip nibs into inkwells and march numbers across ledgers whose pages are as neat as piano music. A blotter hovers like a kindly chaperone. The cash till at a shop rings a bell that is half arithmetic and half applause. In workshops, artisans tame stubborn materials. A joiner's plane sings pale curls from oak. A cobbler's awl nudges leather into cooperation. A typesetter fits letters into rows that will soon become speech. In factories, where we tread lightly, spindles whir, belts hum, and time is kept by whistles you can hear 3 streets away. The rhythm is strong, the tea break stronger. For women in shops and offices, ledgers, measuring tapes and pins are as familiar as friends. The new department stores will soon attract them like bright glass promises. For now, counterwork is theatre of competence. Aprons are clean flags, buttons glint, hat stands become still life sculptures. Not every day is easy, but many days carry small, masterful satisfactions. A column that balances, a sole that sits perfectly, a seam that pretends it was always there. Wages go into a purse that smells faintly of coin and hope. Evenings belong to the slow boil of stew and the faster heat of song. Behold the shop window. A stage with plate glass curtains. Inside, bolts of cloth pose like landscapes. China glows. Spices stand at attention in glass jars with paper labels that proclaim their travels. The counterbell rings with genial authority. You're greeted not as a wallet, but as a guest with excellent taste waiting to happen. Arcades turn weather into decoration. Under iron and glass roofs, gas lamps glowing like tame constellations, you stroll past gloves, maps, music sheets, and umbrella handles carved into animal heads with secret smiles. A milliner's head form wears a hat with opinions. You nod as if to a witty acquaintance. The department store, that cathedral of variety, begins to learn its lines. Cash rails whisk little money capsules overhead with satisfying zips, like a network of polished bees. Lifts may appear with attendants whose confidence is measured in the accuracy of their floor announcements. Goods assemble in abundance until desire learns to browse. Comparisons to today tiptoe in. One-click ordering is replaced by the immensely present click of a door latch and the multi-sensory glow of wrapping paper, string, and sealing wax. You leave with a brown parcel that looks precisely like a promise. Words travel briskly now, and some of them wear uniforms. The postman carries a leather satchel that could tell you the news of 1,000 kitchens. Red pillar boxes accept your secrets politely. Stamps are small tickets to anywhere in the imagination, cancelled with a neat kiss of history. At the telegraph counter, the present becomes impatient with distance. You fill out a telegram form in capital letters that look like marching soldiers. The clerk, a conductor of electric intentions, taps your sentence into a wire that runs faster than weather. Soon a boy will appear at a door with the envelope, the original push notification, except it knocks, removes its cap, and waits for an answer. News grows nimble, arrangements grow elegant. You can arrive to meet a friend the same day the plan is conceived, and the tea will still be hot. The cost by the word gives language excellent posture. Even congratulations learn to dress succinctly. Words on paper are public transport for the mind. The broadsheet spreads its wings each morning. Illustrations perch like lively birds in the margins. In kiosks and on corners, penny dreadfuls and weekly serials promise cliffhangers that will behave themselves until laundry day. The newsboy's bag carries revolution and recipes side by side. At the circulating library, a more decorous thrill. You select a novel with the anticipation of someone picking a seat on a train. Which carriage will you inhabit tonight? Bookmarks braid themselves from ribbon. Librarians remember your face, your taste, and whether you prefer moral uplift or plot that sprints in narrow boots. Reading aloud in parlours becomes a sport where everyone wins. There is a modern feeling to it, the feed that updates on a schedule, the episode that refuses to release early. Only here the algorithm is the kindly owner who puts the next volume aside for you, because your eye is widened at the mention of chapter 32. When the lamps bloom again, the streets sketch their night faces. You may go to a music hall where songs are hearty, choruses contagious, and the gas footlights fold everyone into a warm rectangle of delight. A programme becomes a paper fan, a pint is a sensible round number for conversation. Laughter edits the day into a version both true and kind. Or you attend a lecture, scientific marvels, explained with lantern slides that glow like manageable stars. A temperance meeting holds steadier lights, hymns, speeches, cups of tea and saucers that clink like small agreements. In another corner of the map, a chapel hosts a gathering that sends people home with heads clear and feet grateful. All the while, the police lantern glows at intervals, a sober punctuation mark. Streets remain busy but become courteous. Even hurry wears softer shoes. You find your way back by the grammar of lamps and the logic of corners you know by heart. Beyond the city's bravado lie fields with their own watch. Here the road is edged by hedgerows that receive gossip from birds. Stiles interrupt fences with polite invitations. A wicker hamper waits on the grass that rehearses summer in whispers. Time wears boots still, but they are comfortable ones. Villages keep clocks that might be slightly opinionated. The church tower suggests the hour with a bell that is never sorry to be itself. Work is seasonal choreography. Scythes in July, apple crates in September, kindling baskets in December. Markets occur on squares where dogs debate philosophy in a circle. A day here smells of hay, bread, and a river with a memory. You return to the city feeling that your feet have learned a dialect of calm. The train puts the countryside in your pocket, which is a very polite magic trick for a century to perform. Some mornings the city decides to try on a costume. Fog lowers itself like a thoughtful curtain, turning gas lamps into soft moons and horse lamps into travelling stars. Coats grow mufflers, handkerchiefs acquire responsibilities. The pavements sound different in fog, boots explore, wheels suggest, and everyone becomes a kinder silhouette. We do not make fog a villain here. It is an atmosphere tutor, telling you to slow your verbs. Shop bells ring more often, because doors take longer to find their place. At crossings, strangers perform small theatre. A hand to a sleeve, a nod, the simple companionship of visibility. The city's voice lowers. The city listens to its own heartbeat. When the fog drifts away, the day clears its throat and resumes. But the courtesy lingers. People who once were silhouettes are now acquaintances. The sun applauds roofs and windows with the clapping of light. Certain customs will raise a modern eyebrow softly. The cab whistle, for instance, an entire ride hailing a platform, condensed to 2 inches of tin and your confidence at street level. The sandwich man, a person walking advertisement boards like a very earnest book cover, proves that the algorithm once had feet. And the cash railway in the department store, tiny carriages zipping overhead, looks like a miniature transport network built by enthusiastic elves with excellent accounting skills. We smile and let them keep their dignity. Every oddity is also a solution wrapped in a bow of its own century. Later ages will laugh at our own elaborate pockets and glowing rectangles. Tea forgives everyone. Return home by routes your feet know better than maps. The gate latch offers its small handshake. The doormat reads your day in dust and lets it go. Inside, the familiar coal grate has banked itself into hospitality. The tea kettle leans toward the flame with the courage of a loyal friend. Set down your parcel, your hat, your morning's heroic purse. The mantel clock receives you with its patient grammar, unbothered by timetables and whistles, pleased that you navigated the city without losing your sense of wonder. Out there, time may hurry. In here, it keeps. You draw the curtains, you let the day fold itself carefully along its creases. Somewhere a train sighs in the distance like a tired beast that knows its stalls. The house understands, and so do you. The coal gives a small star sound, the clock approves. A small white rectangle lands with the hush of a snowflake, a calling card resting on a silver tray. In the next room, a piano lid lowers like a polite eyelid. In the hall, a feathered hat nods to its own weight on a stand that seems to bow back. Somewhere a mantel clock tests the room's patience with its even tick, and the coal fire adds a soft note, a tiny applause for ordinary ceremony. You have stepped into the part of the Victorian day where manners are architecture you carry around. Doors open not only with handles but with customs. Chairs are invitations, cups and saucers are punctuation. You breathe in starch and lavender, and that agreeable promise tea leaves make when they meet steam. Tonight we tour the gentle theatre of the everyday, courtship and conversation, faith and curiosity, leisure and the peculiar little inventions of comfort. We travel lightly with gloves and a smile, and return in time for the clock to announce that dignity and sleep are close relatives. On the card tray, names stand like a polite forest, embossed, beveled, sometimes with an address tucked to one side like a secret shared. Calling hours are posted in the invisible ink of custom, afternoons mostly, when sunshine looks good on porcelain. A visitor leaves a card, the household leaves a response about calendars perform a minuet without showing their feet. In the parlour, furniture understands choreography. Chairs angle for conversation. A settee offers neutral ground. The fender glows like an agreeable moderator. You sit where modesty suggests and proximity permits. A tea tray arrives. Teapot, tongs, sponge cake. The original icebreaker. Better than weather. The maid paws with the precision of a diplomat. Courtship is a series of cheerful riddles with answers everyone already knows. Chaperones observe from an adjacent sentence in the same paragraph. Gloves are removed at the speed of trust. A small vase of violets performs the labour of nuance. If there is music, a dance card appears, little pencil attached by the ribbon, and suddenly a future is written in time signatures. At the promenade, conversation walks beside gravel, bandstand brass, and lilac hedges that approve of romance. Will you take the air means exactly what it sounds like and a few things more. At home, letters are written with ink that dries as thoughtfully as feelings do. A modern aside kindly offered. Today's group chat has its charms, but a calling card says thinking of you in stationery, which is much harder to mute. Open the wardrobe and the century changes shape. Early decades bloom into crinolines, whole rooms of skirts supported by the discrete geometry of a cage. Later, the bustle collects the silhouette into a witty exclamation. Fabric with a good sense of humour. The constant is the corset, which we treat kindly here. A framework some find supportive, others argumentative, often both. Underneath, a society of petticoats murmurs like white surf. Stockings fasten with garters, boots button with the help of a quick, clever button hook. For an outing, a parasol performs shade, a bonnet gathers weather and improves it. Gloves calibrate the handshake to exactly the right temperature of sincerity. Men's wardrobes are equally sincere. Frock coats propose gravitas, morning coats offer compromise, waistcoats explore pattern, often secretly. Ties are arguments with fabric that end in tasteful truces. Hats, top bowler boater, declare itinerary before the mouth does. In a drawer, collar studs wait like punctuation. Clothes here are not merely worn, they collaborate. A seam anticipates a spine. A brim predicts the sun. One smiles at the seriousness without laughing at the people. If today's athletic wear is a pep talk you can zip, Victorian dress is a sentence diagram you can walk around in. Gentle joke, 2 stitches short of sleep. Shapewear exists in every century, the names just change outfits. A gentleman's face enters the room before he does, born on clouds of ambition called whiskers. There are mutton chops broad enough to cast shade, sideburns tidy as ledgers, moustaches that twirl like confident signatures, a moustache cup with its protective porcelain shelf, guards tea from adventure. Mornings begin with a liturgy of grooming. Badger bristle brush whipping soap into lather in a shaving mug. A strop teaching a razor to remember sharpness. A towel folded with the precision of a conclusion. A dab of pomade whispers to unruly hair, promising a day of good behaviour. The mirror holds counsel and keeps secrets. Hats stand ready on pegs like well-trained thoughts. Gloves wait for errands. Walking sticks lean in conversationally. The result is a face that matches the hour. Serious by morning, softened by tea, amused by evening. The whiskers, of course, have their own editorial page. We accept that fashion travels. Tomorrow's faces will have their own headlines. Beards come and go. Patience remains a classic. Sunday, the week's quiet cathedral, finds families dressed in the confidence of best clothes, walking to church under bell notes that step down the air like careful feet. Hymnals open. Organ pipes speak in harmonies that feel like architecture. A sermon explores the neighbourhood of conscience. Afterwards, pew doors click shut with the gentlest punctuation. Elsewhere, and often after dark, curiosity taps the table leg. In drawing rooms and hired parlours, séances sometimes assemble. A table lightly touched by fingertips, a planchette feeling for the alphabet, a spirit trumpet with theatrical aspirations. Whatever one believes, the scene is a study in attentiveness. People holding their breath together, listening for meaning. The candles are excellent actors. Between pew and planchette lies a broad land of inquiry. Lectures draw crowds hungry for wonders. Electricity animating a ring of vacuum bulbs. Naturalists unveiling specimens in bell jars. Engineers holding up blueprints like treasure maps to bridges and machines. The century is devoted to curiosity as a civic duty. Cabinets of minerals, shells, and fossils multiply like polite lightning. We tread softly where certainty is loud. Beliefs vary. The appetite for wonder does not. Modern ears will recognise the style. Part science fair, part late-night forum, part heartfelt wish that the world be both orderly and full of surprise. On the whatnot shelf near the writing desk, a confident book presides. A household manual full of receipts, recipes, and rules that turn life into chapters. Inside, advice on stewing and starching, on removing ink with milk, on persuading a stain to reconsider its loyalties with vinegar and salt. In the sewing basket, a darning egg, needles, thimble, and card of hooks and eyes that might one day save a reputation. Menus are planned with seasons as co-authors. The pantry counts jars of jam as if they were coins. Pickles wait in their brine like sensible jokes. Dripping pots and pudding cloths confer in low voices. Leftovers become hashed triumphs. Bones create broth that announces itself in steam. Tidiness is both economy and grace. The manual extends beyond the kitchen. It offers counsel on ventilation, laundry blue, the emollient virtues of glycerin, and how to welcome guests with a handbell, a flower, and confidence. The book is prescriptive, yes, but also companionable. Margins grow wise with penciled notes. Less salt, aunts way better. Works in damp weather. We nod to modern search engines with affection. The manual is a kind of ancestor of the how-to video, minus the pause button and plus a stain removal chart that reads like poetry. Rain on the panes? Excellent. The parlour knows what to do. The stereoscope comes out, 2 pictures that decide to become 3 with a clever clap of lenses. Suddenly you stand at the Alps, at a cathedral, at the seaside, while your slippers remain loyal to the hearth rug. Nearby, a kaleidoscope turns coloured fragments into stained glass sermons. Parlour games proceed at conversational speed. Charades with just enough absurdity, acrostics afoot on slate to snap dealing sudden laughter, whist pretending to be serious. The piano wakes for songs everyone knows. The metronome nods like a magistrate who has relaxed. A magic lantern might bloom against a sheet, throwing slides of far places, cautionary tales or geology with unexpected charisma. Scrapbooks collect calling cards, ribbons, pressings of fern, shells, and polished stones make a small private museum on the whatnot. The parlour becomes a ship that refuses to pitch, a library that applauds, a stage where the audience and the players are family. A gentle smile, tonight's binge watch is performed by the serial novel and the piano bench, The skip intro button is your brother clearing his throat. On fine afternoons, parks become drawing rooms under the sky. Gravel paths host parasols and walking sticks filling in for commas and semicolons. Bandstands contribute waltzes. Swan boats consider metaphors. You walk to be seen and to see, to breathe, to place your day in a larger sentence. Weekends flirt with the countryside, a wicker hamper loaded with boiled eggs, cold chicken, seed cake, and a stiff napkin travels to a patch of grass where hats can be philosophical and shoes can take a nap. Croquet hoops sink into the lawn like decisions. Mallets thud softly, laughter rephrases competition into friendship. And then the sea, democrat of horizons. Trains make it reachable. Piers lift you over the water like conversation over shyness. On the shingle, donkeys consider employment. Shells audition for pockets. A bathing machine trundles toward decency and salt. Rock, the candy kind, spells the name of the town all the way through. Proof that even sugar can keep its promises. You return home with sand in your shoe and a postcard in your pocketbook. The mantel clock you feel will approve. Evenings curl around books. The circulating library ticket lives in a purse like a small passport with no disappointing borders. A new instalment of a serial arrives, and the household negotiates who reads first with the diplomacy usually reserved for inheritances. Bookmarks perform acrobatics. Margins collect gentle arguments. In the newspaper, debates rumble alongside advertisements that promise everything from tonics to soap capable of washing not only garments but also regrets. Illustrations wink in woodcut lines. Letters to the editor stage miniature civil wars with excellent spelling. At the kitchen table, someone copies a recipe for seed cake. At the parlour fire, someone else copies a sentence that feels like a friend. Patience is part of the pleasure. You must wait a week for the cliffhanger to report on its health. The author writes across time zones of attention. You bring your own blanket. Modern streaming has its grace. This is its candlelit cousin. Step into a palace made of glass and iron, a greenhouse for astonishment. Light falls everywhere at once, making the crowd look briefly like a new species. Homo admiring. Exhibits gleam. Machine looms, purring respectfully. Printing presses proud as lions. Steam engines polished to the philosophy of reflection. In cabinets, textiles sparkle with newly audacious aniline dyes. Clocks show off like well-behaved peacocks. You wander with a catalogue in hand and find the world arranged into display cases. Fabrics, porcelain, scientific instruments, and curiosities whose only purpose is to remind you that cleverness enjoys company. Souvenir medals wink. Refreshment stalls prove that no one understands wonder on an empty stomach. Children memorise the feel of banisters under hot little hands. Adults memorise the feeling of standing in a century that has decided to surprise itself. We keep the focus soft. The building, later postcards will insist, sounds like rain even when the sky's blue. You leave slightly taller, which is a common side effect of awe. Some details, viewed from today, look deliciously unlikely. Hair jewellery, locks woven into brooches, rings, and lockets. Is love you can clasp. Sentiment braided into portable poetry. Smelling salts wait in tiny bottles to retrieve anyone who faints under the combined weight of a hot room, exciting news, and the bass notes of corsetry. Walls wear very confident greens and yellows, colours minted by new chemistry and by optimism with a capital O. We smile and open a window in the imagination. Moustache cups stand guard over beverages. Calling card baskets nearly require a librarian. Language of flowers dictionaries allow you to send an essay using violets, ferns, and forget-me-nots. Patent remedies look pleased with themselves on apothecary shelves. We pass them by with a respectful nod and head for tea. Each oddity is really a solution wearing a cape. The era loved ingenuity, especially when it could be dusted and placed somewhere visible. Back home, coats retire to their pegs, fans fold, dance cards sleep in reticules with the contentment of paper that has met destiny. The parlour stands ready for the debrief. What was said, who laughed, who danced the second quadrille with Withershin's enthusiasm. Tea, once again, notarises the evening. The coal grate tucks itself into embers, a small constellation you could name after well-behaved stars. The mantel clock listens to your report with the even temper of a shepherd. Fashion has fluttered, beliefs have glowed, leisure has turned the pages and come to bed. The clock approves without ceremony. You loosen laces, unpin brooch and hat, and the mirror returns your face unadorned and pleasantly surprised to be itself. Outside, a late carriage goes by with the muffled certainty of hooves on wet street. Inside, sleep rehearses its lines. The clock keeps. The coal gives a little star sound. Tomorrow can have its bustle. Tonight belongs to rest. Night arrives like a careful stagehand, dimming the world with a gloved hand. In the lane, the lamplighter performs his last reverse journey. Snuffer lifted, key turning, tiny fires bowing out one by one. In the parlour, the mantel clock keeps its even step, and the coal grate settles with the sound of a cat rearranging itself into perfect comfort. A wool shawl finds your shoulders, and the day becomes a smaller, kinder room. We are in the hour when houses show their wisdom, how to make rest out of embers and routine. Outside, the century builds empires of speed. Inside, night edits that into sleep. Evening is a choreography of light. At the wall, a gas tap turns with the shy click of etiquette. A match scratches, flares, and steadies against the mantel under a glass chimney. Shadows retreat without argument. Later, in some homes, an early switch performs a neat magic that still feels experimental, as if a wizard had been invited to tea and behaved impeccably. In doorways and along streets, the lamplighter completes his circuit in reverse, extinguishing his constellations, boots keeping time with the pavement. Children press faces to glass as if watching a page turn. The room glows with a final sentence of light before the lamp is drawn down. Wick persuaded to humility, the snuffer a quiet editor. We compare gently. Today's dimmer offers a slide from sunlight to romantic cafe. Here there are two moods, on and off, and somehow 100 shades live between them, saved in the wicker basket of memory. The house hums a little tune of readiness. Curtains breathe inward. Shutters close their wooden eyelashes. We walk the circuit, you and I, our hands learning each switch, each tap, each small boat of dark. Upstairs, the temperature greets you like an honest friend. The counterpane is folded back with a ceremonial square. Sheets are cool as grammar, ready to be warmed into poetry. A warming pan, brass, bright on its long handle, has already toured the mattress like a moon practicing its orbit. Where brass retires, the stone hot water bottle takes the post. Plump, knitted cover, soft as a vow. A nightshirt declares indifference to fashion. A nightcap keeps counsel with ears. The bedstead creaks in complete sentences. The feather bolster remembers your shoulders and agrees to meet them halfway. On the table, a candlestick, a novel, a small glass of water made brave by the dark. The room smells of soap and linen and some kind of sleepy punctuation. Modern beds are clouds with zippers. This one is whether you can arrange by hand, more blanket, less blanket, the democratic tug of war you always win. If your pillow were any kinder, it would write you a note. Before surrender, the house asks for a small patrol, a ceremony of safety. Downstairs, the ashpan is cleared, the damper set to a half-closed confidence. The kettle is filled in case a night thought wants company. Windows are latched, the front door tried once then again, a ritual performed by generations like a favourite lullaby. A coin purse is counted with the same logic as prayer. Not superstition exactly, but gratitude quantified. The clock key has its quiet appointment with the movement, a few careful turns, the whole week made possible by your hand. Curtain cords tidy themselves into tassels. Somewhere the cat confirms that all beds are accounted for. Back upstairs, you lower the lamp and discover that your feet already know how to find the rug's edge, the stairs whisper, the polite corners of furniture. The house is a map with the lights off, and you are its cartographer. Water, that stubborn friend, travels by jug and ewer in many homes, even as pipes arrive by decade and borough. A porcelain basin receives the soft punctuation of evening, face, hands, the nape of the neck, and lets the day's ink run away. In some houses, a pull chain over a porcelain cistern speaks with dignity. In others, the chamber pot does its old honest work, discreet as a footnote. The scullery knows how to tip a kettle at the right angle, and how to cool the mouth of a cup by holding it to the window for a single breath. Soap smells like lavender or virtue. Towels are lines of flannel that remember the sun. We nod to modern convenience with affection. Today you may ask a tap for exactly the temperature you prefer, and it will obey like a well-trained hound. Here, you negotiate with a very clever mule. It comes around. Mules often do. On a modest shelf behind a discreet door, bottles congregate with the gravity of a small choir. Liniments label themselves in decisive type. Tonics promise robust outcomes in paragraph form. Sal Volatile waits to assist collapsing dignity with a bracing sniff. A bandage roll naps beside scissors and safety pins that have recently learned their job. Over the years, wiser practices arrive and take their places at the front. Carbolic for cleanliness with serious intent. More frequent hand washing that begins to sound like a sermon everyone can approve of. Thermometers that turn fever into numbers, and numbers into decisions. Advice travels through pamphlets, nurses and neighbours who have learned their lessons at gentle cost and share them with the authority of kindness. We tiptoe. Not every cure cures, not every bottle deserves its label. But the direction of travel is toward light. The house keeps its own simple pharmacy and knows when to ask for help. A cordial joke, sleep safe. If the bottle says it remedies everything from ennui to squeaky hinges, it is perhaps optimistic. Tea is recommended. When the time comes, rooms become smaller on purpose. Linen is boiled, water warmed, hands washed as if they were prayers. A midwife's bag opens like a storybook. Cloths, pins, a watch with a second hand that knows how to be patient. Voices lower. Footsteps learn to tiptoe. Courage is everywhere wearing aprons. In many places, experienced women lead. Elsewhere, hospitals are learning to be kinder places and to wash like they mean it. Afterward, the house rearranges itself into a cradle. Cot placed near the fireguard. Shawls folded into nests, pantry stocked with the clever soups. Night brings a chorus of new sounds. Small breaths, small demands, small miracles repeating, as if practicing for a long life. We stay here only a moment with respect. Love makes experts of the ordinary, and sleep returns in pieces, which proves it knows the way. Sleep keeps older etiquette. You may drift to rest, wake for an hour at 2, and then return as if answering a friendly knock. This first sleep and second sleep feel like 2 chapters with a cordial intermission. Time for a quiet cup, a look at the coals, a check on the latch and the weather. Dreams arrive obediently after that, wagging their tails. For many homes, the night is accompanied by music written in iron. Far away, a train breathes across the countryside, a long animal that has learned how to sing in 4/4 time. You hear the rhythm through walls and pillow, a faint prosody that convinces thoughts to walk in straight lines toward morning. Closer by, the clock provides percussion, and the house timbers add a contemplative bass. Today, some of us wear bracelets that rate our sleep like a restaurant. Here, sleep is a village custom. It knows your name and your address, and the particular creak that means all is well. Winter writes letters under the door. The door snake slides into position with a thump that says firmly no. Shutters meet, curtains thicken, rugs bloom beside the bed like islands you can warm your feet on. Tea migrate from morning to all day long. On sharp nights, frost ferns decorate the window panes with better calligraphy than anyone you know. Summer opens everything. Sash windows yift like eyebrows, nets stir, pollen writes pleasant gossip on the air, sheets dry on the line with the authoritative flatness of contentment. The evening cools enough for the piano to forgive hands. Somewhere a jug of lemon barley water earns its keep. Thunder makes a speech and is applauded. Rain persuades roofs to confess their age. Buckets attend rehearsals in draughty corners. Someone says, "We'll see to that come spring," and the remark itself keeps the house warmer. From the Victorian day, we would gladly borrow a few tools of spirit. Mend and make do turns darning mushrooms into small miracles. Buttons are re-sewn with the authority of people who expect things to last. The work basket is a first aid kit for fabric and occasionally for courage. We would borrow the letter. Paper, ink, seal, the careful address that reveals its writer by weight, scent and spine. A week later, an answer arrives that folds the distance into an envelope and tucks it in your hand. Text messages are quicksilver. Letters build shelves in the heart. Most of all, we would borrow the seriousness of tea. The caddy with its little key, the spoon that knows the right measure, the habit of sitting down together to solve a day with boiling water and patience. Every century keeps a therapy, this one pours it into porcelain. We carry forward gratitude like a lantern, for clean water that listens to taps and turns obedient, for vaccines that guard doorways we cannot see, for antibiotics that arrived like new verbs with the power to heal, for smokeless fuels and windows that open without a handful of soot, for electric light that declines to smoke the ceiling, for washing machines that perform a Monday opera while you read a book and think about jam. Even in our good fortune, we keep a piece of their wisdom, to look after rooms and let rooms look after us, to treat sleep as a craft, to consult the clock without worshipping it, to make tea for problems until they shrink to the size of cups. The house has become very quiet now. Coals knit themselves into a soft constellation. Ash takes the shape of a grey meadow with footprints that are really the memory of flame. The mantel clock is unwavering, previewing morning in small instalments. You turn the lamp down to the last agreeable glow, a petal of light. You slide into the shape your bed has saved for you. Above the roof, the city has put away its jewellery. Below the roof, your day has folded itself like a letter you will happily reread tomorrow. The window counts a few stars. Somewhere, a late carriage crosses a stone bridge, and the sound arrives as if wrapped in velvet. The clock keeps. The coal gives a soft star sound. Night closes the door quietly behind itself, confident that you are warm. And so, our journey for tonight comes to a quiet close. The story lingers, like the last glow of candlelight, as you drift further into rest. If these gentle wanderings bring you peace, I invite you to like and subscribe so that whenever you wish, you may return and we can travel together once more. For now, dear listener, may your dreams be kind and your night be restful. Until next time.